Mark C. Graves is the lead reporter for WTOP Investigative Unit and has been noted for quite a bit of work uncovering many things like missing laptops in the federal government. Also for the Maryland Gun Club, which was putting lead into a creek over in Maryland that led to quite a clamp down there. And we are very happy to have him back after he moderated one of our candidate forums last year. Comes from a line of reporters. His dad worked for the Washington Star at that time. I want to make sure I get this right. For the Washington Star, and his mom worked for the Baltimore Sun, right? Yeah. And I've been in this area long enough to remember some of these older newspapers. So I'm going to turn this over to Mark Seagraves, and he's going to be running this forum, and I'm sure he will do it in fine form. There you go.
All right, thank you very much. I am Mark Seagraves from WTOP 103.5 FM on your dial all the way down to the right. We have some new competition in the 90s, so we don't need to get lost down there. Also the host of DC 50s News Talk every Friday morning at 7:30. Set your TiVos for that. I appreciate it. I live in Washington, D.C., where we are now having special elections just about every 6 months now. So welcome to our world. I want to just go over, first let's thank the Prince William Committee of 100 for organizing this event. They always put on a great forum. Just quickly on the ground rules. Somewhere down here we have a timekeeper. Oh, somewhere over there, way back there in the middle. So he'll let you know what is green, my 2 minutes, okay? 1 minute. And if we get to the red one, you're going to start making, yes. I will introduce the candidates. Each candidate will get 3 minutes to give an opening statement. You can hold your applause until the end of the evening. There'll be questions. Each person will get 2 minutes to answer those questions. And then at the end of the round of questioning, there will be time for closing statements. I was going to say closing arguments. I spent too much time in court. Closing statements for everybody. At that time, you can let loose with your applause and whatnot. The questions have been chosen through a committee that was put together specifically to make sure that we hit all the topics that are important in this debate. And so without further ado, I will introduce the candidates. I hope everybody's sitting in the right place because this is the order that I have. Lori Bachman-Moore, here to my left, I guess from your left to your right. Stanley Bender, Lily Jesse, and Michael Wooten. And we appreciate them all being here. We will start, was there an order in which we're going? We are going to start right. We're going to start down here because this is just easy for me to remember with opening statements, and don't forget about our timekeeper midway, Ms. Bachman-Moore. Go right ahead. And you all have how many mic? Oh, everybody's got a microphone. Oh, sweet, excellent. Have at it. You stay there. You walk around. You stand up. The mic should be on. Give me one of these.
Now? Yes, sir. Well, good evening. And first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for spending the evening with us instead of spending it. Sure, every single one of you had something else that you would like to do, but we do appreciate you taking the time to come listen to us. So I want to thank you first and foremost. Hi, I'm Lori Bachman-Moore, but at Woodbridge Little League, I'm called Coach. At Old Bridge Elementary School, you can call me the Ketchup Queen. At the Potomac National Stadium, you can call me Mama Moore for being a host mom and taking care of players that come into Prince William County to pursue their baseball dreams, and they need people to drive them around. I am their driver. Can I borrow $20 till payday? I need a lift to the Potomac National Stadium at 6:30 tomorrow morning. And oh, by the way, the bus will drop me back off at midnight. At church, you may call me the Sunbeam Teacher. At Woodbridge High School football game, you can call me the Booster Club 50-50 raffle lady and bring me a winning ticket, please, lady. Dr. Niles' office, you can call me the nice blonde lady that adjusts the kids' braces. In school, I was called Smarty Pants for my good grades and how I loved school. My mother called me Pumpkin. Hence, on my table, there is a pumpkin field with Smarty candies. For your enjoyment, please pick one up on the way out. As you can see, my life is all about children. Every day, I do something just about with children and for children. And as the Occoquan school rep, I would be able to continue humbly to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now our next candidate, Mrs. Leslie Jesse. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Bender. Mr. Stanley Bender is next.
Thank you. Is this phone working, everybody? Again, good evening, everybody. Let's see if I can stand. My name is Stanley Bender. I live in the Occoquan Forest. It's the Occoquan District. I'm interested in being appointed to the vacant Occoquan District seat on the school board. As you can see, I'm getting a little old here, so I'll have to hold these papers up closer. I have a bachelor's degree, science and technology and management. I'm a retired federal employee and disabled vet of the United States Marine Corps. Hey, I have lived in Prince William County for over 30 years. My two sons graduated from the county schools and are leading a successful lives. During the government career, I was heavily involved in financial management related to electronic warfare for both the Navy and missile defense. I have contributed to the community as an auxiliary deputy sheriff, as a volunteer with the fire department, and also a member of the county jail board. Moving right along. I care about the community and education. Students' performance education programs are set by the school board. Not being on the board, how does the community know that we are committed to continuing only quality education? It's a little hard for me. You'll have to excuse me as I sit down. With the board support, I will promote effective program for students who will be able to make choices that will impact their lives in later years, which brings us to the board's responsibility to provide students the type of learning for science, technology, engineering, math, English, and other professional education, such as crafts. I want to promote merit pay for people in the PWC education system. I know teachers are highly qualified in their profession. They know their subject, teaching. How does the system evaluate teachers? They are a hinge pin to educating students. They are on contract. Does the contract benefit the community and the teachers? Factors to decide a beneficial contract for teachers must continually be updated to stay with the current infrastructure. I want to thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to being appointed and elected to this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Our next candidate now is Mrs. Lily G. Jesse.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank the committee for allowing us to share our thoughts about education this evening. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. First of all, my husband and I have been in this county since 1970. We have two beautiful daughters, both graduated from Prince William County schools. And I have been in the county for 35 years. I have had a wonderful, wonderful, marvelous career. I often say that I could do this job without pay, but my husband says no. He wants me to be paid. I think that the biggest thing for me is that I've had an opportunity to work with children from all backgrounds, all demographics, from special education students to gifted students. So I come with that experience, and I think that's the experience I would bring to the school board. For me, it's about creating high performance. I'm known for saying, let's make the main thing the main thing. And for me, it's all about learning. It's not necessarily about teaching. It's really about student learning. There are some issues that I'd like to cover during if elected, and those issues include the following. One, I'd like to be a voice and an ear for teachers. Number two, a rigorous curriculum. I think it's important that as we are approaching the 21st century, that we have a challenging curriculum. Number three, I would also like to look at the collaboration of teachers and making sure that teachers are empowered, and the salary issue also. And creating a college-bound curriculum. Creating a college-bound curriculum is important as part of the state initiative. It's always been a part of my initiative as a principal. In fact, for the last 5 years, my fifth graders have always gone to, all of my fifth graders have attended Virginia Tech, because I think that the way to make a movement in our educational system is to start very early. And I would like to end by saying that for teachers, this salary situation is something that I'm really concerned about, but I'm also concerned about the new law from No Child Left Behind, where we're looking at using performance as a part of their evaluation, student performance. And I think for me, it's all about what I like to call equity and excellence when we're looking at the whole educational situation.
Thank you, Mrs. Jesse. And now our fourth candidate is Dr. Michael Wooten.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, members of the Prince William Committee of 100 and fellow citizens for coming out tonight. Thank you for hosting us. I'd like to begin just by introducing myself as the other three candidates did. I'm Mike Wooten. I am currently the school board member for the Occoquan district. Like the other three, the four of us will introduce ourselves, tell you a little bit about ourselves, and hopefully give you a good perspective on what our vision is for the future. Now, make no mistake about it, this election is not about any one of us. It is about that vision for the future. Now, as elected officials, you should expect that we are going to focus on the future for liberty in this county, the future for prosperity. The way we do that on the school board is to focus on one thing, and I can give it to you in 2 words: student success. Now, we need to look at the problems of the school system as school board members strategically. And I'm going to offer a strategic framework for you to evaluate our answers by tonight. I call it the iron triangle. And that iron triangle is made of 3 elements. That triangle having 3 legs, that the first leg being teacher compensation, or better yet, what is that value proposition that we give to those professionals that are so important to student learning? The second leg of that triangle is school or classroom environment. And one of the main measures that we have for looking at the quality or how we're doing with that environment, teachers are sensitive to and parents are sensitive to also, and that's class size. That third leg on that iron triangle is taxes. Now, whichever of us is elected, we do not have taxing authority. And we will not be able to push your taxes up. And I'm quite okay with that. What we're going to have to focus on, though, are the other 2 legs of that triangle. And I hope you will look at our answers and consider the realism of the solutions that we propose in dealing with that iron triangle. Thank you very much.
Okay, before we get into the questioning, I'd like to do this at every debate that I moderate. Just from the audience, from a show of hands, how many people here tonight are undecided voters going into this debate tonight? There's 4 votes up for grabs for you guys here tonight. I'm glad I didn't see any hands up here on the stage. And one, maybe I can get a better response to this. How many people thought that it was an interception last night in the Green Bay game? Okay. We are going to begin the questioning now, and And what we're going to do is we will start with Mr. Bender will answer first, and then we'll go down the line and swing around, and everybody will get a chance to answer first and go last. So here is our first question of the night. The Prince William County school system is the second largest in the Commonwealth. What professional and personal experiences do you have that qualify you to be the Occoquan School Board member? Mr. Bender, you have 2 minutes.
The mere fact that we're talking about 52% of the budget. How's that now? Any better? The fact that we're talking about 52% of the budget, and you're asking me a question, basically, of what I would do with respect to the board, it's a difficult question. First of all, I feel very held back by the fact that the way the school board is not run as a business. I think the school board, with respect to their budget and attaining dollars, would have to continue and concentrate on the out years rather than wait till the last minute and go to the Board of County Supervisors. The Board of County Supervisors are continuously stroking the budget so that we don't have to pay any more taxes. I don't consider the taxes a grudge. I consider the taxes a requirement for us to sustain our state in an education position in order to educate our kids. We have objections and goals. Let me repeat that we have objectives and goals. The objective is to get the students up to the point where they can graduate and continue a life pursuant to whatever they have graduated in. So with that, I'll leave the next question to the next person. Thank you.
And just so if the candidates do all use their microphones, not just for the people here, but we also have a webcast that is dependent on the microphones getting the audio out to people who can't be here tonight. And so now we go to Mrs. Jesse about your qualifications for the school board position.
Well, first of all, I've been in this county for 35 years. I have worked at central office. I have worked. I've worked in the system for 35 years. I have been a central office supervisor. I have been a principal. I've been an assistant principal. I've been a teacher. And during that period of time, I've worked with various populations. So it is a very transient, highly mobile county. And so I've worked in a school where I've had them coming and going. I have front-end transiency and I have back-end transiency. I've worked with military students and I've worked with Pentagon students and I've worked in stable situations. And in each situation, I've dealt with high enrollment. I've dealt with classrooms that were not at the size or capacity to hold the students. I also come with a background in working with students from various disabilities. I've worked with gifted students, as I said earlier, and I've just worked with a variety of students. The other part of that makes me I think one of the best candidates for this position is that I have been very successful at high performance. I have worked with, and when I say high performance, I mean that I have been able to see students perform at high levels, and I've been able to see teachers perform at high levels. The only reason you get high performance, to be honest with you, is that you have great teachers. And I have been able to do that through creating a collaborative culture. Of course, in my resume, you see that I've had an award-winning school, and that school was based on 3 principles. 1, learning, not just were children introduced to a subject, did they learn it? Results, when we look at the new jargon is evidence-based learning, I'm always looking for evidence and creating a collaborative culture. I believe that the only way we can teach all the curriculum areas is to have what in a PLC, a professional learning community, is called interdependence. So I've worked with budget, I've worked with teachers, I've worked with parents from all backgrounds, and I've worked in a highly transient situation. It's not going to be what I'm going to do, it's going to be about what I've already done.
That's time. And Dr. Woot.
Well, thank you. To begin with, qualifications for this particular job, one of the things I think I need to say is that all of us are concerned citizens who are willing to roll up their sleeves and work for student success. And I think that is a fundamental qualification for this job that many of you also have. From my own professional background, however, I would add a few things. In addition to being the incumbent school board member, and yes, I had hit the ground running. I'm learning as I go. But in addition to that, I've also served as a member of the board of Northern Virginia Community College. The NOVA board is responsible for the 9 different educational schoolhouses, if you will, that are a part of Northern Virginia Community College, to include 6 major campuses, one in Woodbridge. And that Woodbridge campus educates about 25% of the high school graduates out of Prince William County. I've served with NOVA now and been reappointed just this past July. I was also reelected as vice chair to the NOVA board, which I think is a testament to the confidence that my fellow board members from all the other jurisdictions have in me. Professionally, I was a Marine officer. Thank you. I was a Marine officer. My career culminated with a tour in Afghanistan, where I was able to help build a school that put Afghani girls back into school right on top of the bones of the Taliban. I also culminated my career as a commanding officer for 1,100 Marines. Presently, I serve as a professor of contracts for Defense Acquisition University. I've also taught at the University of the District of Columbia. That red sign means I need to shut up and can't talk about Taekwondo, which I'd love to.
All right, our second question is in fiscal year 13. Oh, see, I knew I was going to get this
Okay,
this loop.
Gotta
The sign, we're having sign problems. All right, here we go. Ms. Bachman-Moore, your turn.
First of all, if the person that asked this question is here in the audience, thank you very much, because I think it's probably one of the best questions asked. First of all, I moved here 40 years ago, and the county had about 250,000 residents. So I've been here, lived here, worked here, seen the changes. There is just unbelievable change in 40 years. I'm a sports coach. I know the letter T in team. You have to be a team, and you have to learn that, and I have proven, being a coach, that I can be a team player. I am a small business owner. I own a business of 31 years in the county and also one of 21 years in the county. So I know what it's like to work within a budget. If you're a small business in this community especially, and it's right here in Woodbridge, believe me, you know where you need to cut and where you have to cut back in times like today. I'm on the Library Foundation Board, so of course learning and reading are very, very important to me. I see a couple board members here, and I want to thank you for coming, because you too also feel that reading is very important. We make it a point to do fundraisers to make sure that Summer Quest reading and things like that are available for the children during summer when school is out. I'm also was 4.5 years on the Park Authority Board, so I know what it's like to have to work with the school board, with the Planning Commission and the Board of County Supervisors to get things done. You all have to be a partner to work together, and I've proven in a number of issues that I can do that. I am married and have 5 children, and believe me, I think that says it all right there. Thank you very much.
Okay, now our second question. In fiscal year 13, the approved operating budget is about $861 million. The ground was just broken on the Nokesville K-8 school, serving about 940 students, 300 of which are middle school students, or a fourth of standard middle school, at a cost of $28.4 million. The Kelly Leadership Center cost about $35 million. According to the Washington Area Board of Education September 2011 report, Prince William has the lowest spending per pupil in the region at $9,852. The question for each of you is, are the spending priorities correct? And we will start with Mrs. Jessie.
The spending priorities really depends on what's happening at the time of the budget. First of all of the budgets are handled in a site-based management style. In other words, principals handle budget. There's this huge budget that has to do with physical plant and other items, but that's not handled by principals. And teacher-pupil ratio really is determined by the principal at the building level. He or she gets a budget. 95% of that budget is for personnel, and that goes back to central. Teacher-pupil ratio has a lot to do with not just the actual budget, but the actual physical plant. So when we talk about physical plant, that's really important that we have adequate space and adequate building and for facilities for students, because sometimes teacher-pupil ratio has nothing to do with the number of teachers. You can have a number of teachers but not have the space. So what happens then is that you end up putting two teachers in a room, and I've lived with that whole situation of that, working with cramped conditions and moving people around to create the kind of learning environment we need. Money by itself does not ensure learning. I have found the commitment of teachers really determines the learning that's going to take place. I would like to see more in the way of teacher-pupil ratio money, and I know that it is about 9,000, and we're lower than some other counties. But when I look at our performance is above some of those counties. So it's not really all about money. At the end of the day, it's really all about teachers.
And thank you, Dr. Wooten.
The question of budget priorities is one that goes right back to that strategic framework that I talked about earlier. Understanding that we have to present the right value proposition to teachers so that they're willing to stay and work and dedicate themselves here in Prince William County. Teachers, and I'm the son of a teacher. I'm the husband of a teacher, actually a middle school teacher. And my daughter is off at UVA, and she intends to return to Northern Virginia to also be a teacher. I certainly respect what teachers do. But again, back to that triangle, we have to present the right value proposition to them. That's not necessarily solely based on compensation, pay, and benefits and so forth. It also has to do with class size. It has to do with the environment of the school, the leadership, the climate the principal sets, and the level of independence and professionalism that we accord those teachers. So that value proposition is a very key thing for us to think about when we set those budget priorities. But answering the question directly, and I intend to give you straight talk. There are things that I would have probably done differently in the past, but moving forward, I'm here to tell you we have to start talking about some of the programs and some of the services that we provide, because we're at a path that's not sustainable. We're at a path that is not sustainable. And we don't, whether you think we ought to talk about raising more money for students because we pay less, the fact is the school board does not have taxing authority. School board does not have taxing authority, and we need to understand that, live within our means.
That's time. And now Mrs. Bachman-Moore.
Thank you. Would you repeat that question one more time?
Absolutely. I'm going to cut through it to the important part because it's a long question. It basically goes to where money is being spent on building new schools and whatnot. According to the Washington Board of Education 2011 report, Prince William County has the lowest spending per pupil at $9,852 per pupil. This is asking whether the spending priorities are correct.
Okay, thank you very much. I can't say for what the school board has done in the past because I was not there. But what I can say is I believe perception is a lot. And when I go to an open house and I hear the teacher say that the children cannot check out a school book to do homework. They have to use that book in the classroom because she has one for everybody and not one extra thing, not one extra book for them to bring home. And I know it's a budget thing. Or if I go and I hear that, a teacher at my school said that there's not enough money, that they have not been able to come out and put her smart board on the wall. When I see those kind of things that are little budget things, but again, perception, and then I see what I call the Taj Mahal in the Kelly Leadership Building, again, perception is everything. And so when you see things that are being cut or not spent, I would like to see some more money come back to the classroom and to the children. And I'm not so sure if I would have not loved to see that that building cut back a little bit. I mean, it's beautiful and grand, but I would have rather seen some of that money come back to the children themselves. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bender, spending priorities.
Spending priorities. I believe the site-based management program in Prince William County should have specific guidelines and central office administration oversight in order to ensure that successful implementation of the process at each workstation, which I'm really saying is we have to continue when we're talking about putting money up for each element. It appears on the surface that is so volatile that it's very difficult today to tell you what I'm going to need for tomorrow. So once again, I'd like to point out that when we talk about the money, we continually base it on two people, the BOC and the Prince William County Board, County Supervisor and the School Board. However, if the final decision rests only with the school board. They don't have a contract except with the teachers. They don't have a contract with anybody else. As a business, we have to continue to process that budget at least 2 years ahead of time. We have to have a committee associated with that budget so that the committee understands what the community really wants to sustain that budget. My time is up for now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And now we go to the third question. I didn't miss anybody, right? I want to make sure that I'm keeping on track here. According to the September 2011 Washington Area Boards of Education report, our students rank 6 out of 10 jurisdictions. Only Alexandria, Manassas Park, Prince George's rank lower. Arlington, Fairfax, and Loudoun counties students scored at least 102 points higher than Prince William students, with the highest scoring 164 points higher. Question for each of you: what would you do to address this situation? And is the motto "world-class schools" still fit? We begin with Dr. Luke.
Well, thank you for that. There are a couple of things that I see you looking in my direction, but the mic is on, right? Okay, good. Yeah, there are a couple of things that we need to consider. First off, the competition that we have here is keen. We need to and can do better than 6 out of 10. But I think to put things in perspective, we also need to understand where we are nationally. Again, that's no excuse. I'm not saying we should settle for 6th place. But the other thing I think we ought to look at too, which concerns me more, perspective I've gained as a member of the NOVA board, is we have a certain set of measures that we're holding teachers accountable for, and then the students graduate from high school, and then they're not ready for college. And one of the more meaningful discussions that we've been having, I mean, because I said they're not ready for college, I need to be clear. 3/4 are not ready for NOVA. 3/4 are not ready for NOVA. But we can't beat the schools over the head, the principals over the head. They're marching toward the standards that we set for them, SOLs, etc. One of the things that we have to think about before we do too much hand-wringing about not meeting the standards is making sure that we have the right standards. Now, at our schools, I'm sorry, is that coming up or are you scratching? Okay. In our schools, we have I'll yield. I lost my train of thought when I saw that red flag there.
Mrs. Bachman-Moore.
It should.
And again, would you please go through that one more time? I was intensely listening to Mr. Wooten.
Sure. It makes the point that Prince William County Schools rank 6 out of 10 counties as far as test scores and performance, with some schools doing much, much better. The question is, how would you address this situation, and does the motto world-class schools still apply?
We have a world-class school. That's why so many people are moving here to Prince William County. I believe that with the diversity of Prince William County changing, that a lot of it has to do with a language barrier, language problem. I know my son was in a class in 5th grade that he would come home and say, "Mommy, I can't learn math because the teacher's having to slow down a little bit because nobody understands English." And so I believe that we have to really work on getting English into the, whether or not, my school has a program where the parents can come for free and the teachers will stay after 1 day a week and help with learning English. And if the parents are learning English, they're going to help with the children learning English, which they can help with the homework and be more of encouraging to help these children to do better in school. That's just, that's the way I think. Thank you.
Mr. Bender.
I've given a lot of thought to answer this question, so you'll have to bear with me very quickly. High school students are lacking basic skills in mathematics and English when they enter college. These are things we have to consider. Students need only activities in sports, but also in student clubs such as science, aviation, robotics, boating, culinary arts, and etc. High school counselors and teachers should be exploring with their students their interests and ambitions so they have a college and or a career plan. Teachers must be innovative and creative as to challenge students with state-of-the-art ideas and projects. We want to move up. Many more classes and teaching methodologies can be delivered via online and or streaming video. The basic computer information technology and computer programming must be taught. Classrooms and laboratories need to be continuously updated with the state-of-the-art projectors, computers, smart boards, and teachers must be continually brought up to these technological levels. The applied arts must be taught when and wherever possible. Drafting, graphic arts, automotive, mechanics, welding, aviation, photography, culinary, etc. Biotechnology, information technology, robotics, etc. Dual enrollment with the local community college must be available for the 11th and 12th years of high school. Advanced placements must be an avenue for students to get ahead on college. Community partners in business and industry can be good for field trips, especially demonstration lectures and advising committee membership, if I have some time. I have recently been to a Air Force symposium in Maryland, and let me tell you, if I'd only thought about it before, I would go ahead to the school board and request that.
Your mic, Mr. Bender. You just hold it up to your mouth. Yes.
I had recently been to a symposium with the Air Force, and let me tell you, I really believe the things that I saw at this facility were fantastic. High school students, in order to look where they want to go tomorrow, should have been invited. Thank you for your time.
That's time. And Mrs. Jessie.
I really wish I had more than 2 minutes to discuss this, but I really don't, so I'll try to summarize it as best as I know. First of all, it's not just Prince William County, it's national. The United States now ranks number 14th in reading, number 17th in science, number 24th and 25 in math and problem solving. We as a nation, not just Prince William County, need to change what we teach and how we teach it. We need to really move away from filling in blanks and create an atmosphere of higher level thinking. Teachers, on the other hand, are being asked to move towards a different structure with SOLs. There are too many objectives for them to teach. The only way they can teach it is in a collaborative culture. The research does not support merit pay, although we are engaging in merit pay. The research says that we work better when we work in a collaborative fashion where there's interdependence and people work on, when you've got 20, the research right now, we know that in order for teachers to teach everything they need to teach, we would have to have a K-22 curriculum instead of K-12. It's just too much to teach. And are there ways of doing this? Yes. There are things called power standards, ways of working together to teach all those objectives. The other thing is starting early. I'm on the board at Virginia Tech, the Board of Education there. And they have not just a STEM lab, which is science, technology, engineering, math. They have a STEAM lab where we're looking at integrating the arts and math and pulling it. We need to create situations where kids have opportunities to think, process, and respond. So it's not just Prince William County. In fact, today the SATs came out, and Prince William is holding its place. We're a little bit behind, but nationally,
That's time.
we're behind.
And because of time, we're running late. I think I'm going to call an audible and move to 1-minute answers. Is that okay with our hosts here? So we'll have 1 minute for the answers so we can get to a few more lightning round. And we like to, yes. So our next question here, so our timekeeper is on one, right on. Very good, sir. Our high schools and a few middle schools are unique to traditional school systems by offering different programs, yet we continue to send students to Thomas Jefferson for their STEM program. According to U.S. News & World Report, our best high school in 2010, Potomac, ranked about 286, whereas Thomas Jefferson was number 2. The question for the candidates, would you continue sending students to Thomas Jefferson? And please touch on your overall philosophy regarding education in the Prince William County school system. And this question goes first to Mrs. Bachman-Moore.
Thank you for the question. I have a son that is in a specialty program. We looked into sending him to that school. It was not for him. Of anybody I know, I only have one friend that has their child sent there. Every children is unique. I think we need to look into different traditional schools, whether or not it be welding, whether or not it be masonry. I think that we're missing the boat on sending children that might not want to go there. Jobs are in automotive repair, they're in plumbing, they're everywhere, and I don't mind that a lot of the children go there, but all my friends and family, that's not where they send their children. We stay right here in Prince William County. My son is in the engineering program, and thank goodness to a wonderful program there. He's decided, as of last week, that he will be a civil engineer, which again, with Fort Belvoir and Quantico right here, I think he has a pretty good chance of getting a job right here.
Mr. Bender.
Would you repeat that question again?
Yes, this has to do with specialty programs, particularly students being sent to Thomas Jefferson for their STEM program. Would you continue to have students go to Thomas Jefferson, and touch a little bit on your overall philosophy with regard to education in the Prince William County school system?
Well, I don't know, but I'm a graduate engineer, and I don't see anything wrong with going, oh, I'm sorry. Like all engineers, they can't get their act together. I have no qualms about going to another school. The question I have is, I've always said this before, the board and the community must, sorry about that, the board and the community must set the assessment as to what's better for the student. As I said in the early assessment I made with you people, there are objectives and there are goals. And the goal is to graduate a person in order for him to live a decent life. Now, if he has to go to, he wants to be a technician or technical assessment and has to go to Thomas Jefferson, the question I have, if we have the money in this county, I see no reason why we can't be as astute as any other county in the country. There's no reason for us to continually fall behind. You've heard these stories 100 times. It's up to the community to go to that school board, because the school board, the director, he has the business. He has the number of majority functions and a very small staff. His members must draw heavily.
That's time, sir. Mrs. Jessie.
Thank you.
You're on.
Thomas Jefferson is not just one of the best schools in this area. Thomas Jefferson is #1 in the nation. I think it's very difficult to tell a parent that you should go to a school in Prince William when you've got a school down the road that's the best in the nation. However, having said that, my daughter went to the IB program at Garfield, and I've heard people say things about Garfield. Exceptional program. We have IB programs at the elementary now. We have a governor's school. We are ranked as one of the best school systems in the nation. Do we need to improve? Yes, we need to improve like all of the school systems that I talked about earlier. So my philosophy is that you create opportunities for students to be engaged in higher level thinking. And I've said that earlier, and I stay with that students now are going to be competing.
Thank you.
1 minute, huh? I'm gonna put a
Dr.
period
Wooten.
on that and come back. Can I have some of your time? No.
That was an IQ test.
It's not that friendly of a debate.
That was an IQ test.
Dr. Wood.
To cut to the chase, should our students be able to go to Thomas Jefferson? Absolutely. And on this, Ms. Jesse and I are going to agree. I think another thing we have in common is our daughters chose not to go there, and were very successful coming out of the Garfield IB program. My daughter's now a second-year student at UVA. My son applied to TJ and didn't make the first cut, got his letter, wasn't disappointed long, reasoned very quickly and said, well, if I'd have gotten in, I might have come out near the bottom. And I happen to know those students coming out of TJ, half don't go to UVA, half don't go to Virginia Tech. Our daughters coming out of IB had a better chance to grab the brass ring at the end. It's not necessarily just the high school, but it's the opportunity down the line. And in Prince William County, we have specialty programs that also are STEM strong. Well, you know what they are.
Thank you very much. How are we on time with our AV? Do you need to take a break right now? No? Okay, we are going to go to our next question then. In 10 minutes, we'll take a quick break for a change of tape and to fix the sign. We're going to get it all together. Here's our next question. The fiscal year 13 contract was hotly contested between the school board and the teachers, and the end result was an average 2.85% salary step increase by cutting $5 million from the budget, including teachers, and increasing the day to 7.5 hours. Along with many teachers leaving the Prince William County school system after teaching only 3 to 4 years. How would you have addressed this situation? How will you handle it in the future? And we begin with Mr. Bender.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that question one more time? Save myself some time.
Absolutely. This has to do with the contract negotiations with the teachers last year and the final resolution, and the question being this is causing, or some see this is causing teachers to leave the school system. How would you have handled this when this first came up, and how will you handle it going forward?
Well, contracts provide stability to student learning environment and continuing on the teacher's practices. Again, while this may be a laudable goal, the reality of evolving requirements may prevent implementation. Class size is in large part driven by budget, also impact on the number of teachers needed. This annual contract may be the best that can be achieved. I don't think we want to go through what we just went through that we've watched in the national news. So I would say basically the vision for the county to assess with the teachers, I'm not looking forward to another contribution where teachers are going to go on strike, et cetera, et cetera. So as I said earlier, there's no such thing as one person has a monopoly. The monopoly belongs to all of us, which means we must have I feel, a committee that is associated with the school board to associate and assess what type of contracts meet the community's requirements. Anybody can write a contract. We can only possibly write a yearly contract based on what I just said. The volatile assessment of students in the schools and how many students are in schools, what we want to do to these schools, how can you possibly put a contract together for the teachers and the community and assess a dollar value on it outside 1 year? I don't believe many companies that have contracts with people sustain it over a year because we don't know what's going to happen in the out fiscal year. Thank you for your time.
Mrs. Jesse.
I just want to respond to something that he said, and that I want to respond to something that he did say, and that was the Chicago strike. First of all, we can't strike in the state of Virginia, but secondly, the situation in Chicago is something that we need to look at down the road because it had little or nothing to do with the salaries and everything to do with the fact that the teachers were being, the student performance was being used as a way of determining their, as a part of their evaluation. And the state of Virginia now has a portion in its new flexibility law that says 40% of the teacher's salary, 40% of their evaluation is going to be related to teach student performance. And if I'm on the board, for me, that's going to be a big issue because I believe in anticipating things rather than waiting for them to happen. On the raise, if the money's available, I think you give the teachers a raise. I just think we've added more responsibilities, not only for teachers, I think for principals also. I've been a principal and I know how difficult it is. So I think we need to give them a raise. But the part where you added the 30 minutes to the day, I think you can do that. I think it was how it was done. I've never liked surprises. And I just don't think the teachers like the surprise. Thank you.
Dr. Wooten.
And I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I can. This has to do with the teacher salary negotiations and their contract and the length of the days that they are working and how this is impacting teacher attrition, amongst other things. How would you have handled this contract negotiation in the past? How would you handle it in the future?
Oh, thank you. I think one of the things that I heard here was, and it was wise, no surprises. The previous negotiations, none of us were part of that. When I look out in the audience and I see the chairman and the president of PWEA, they're both great gentlemen, professionals, get along, and I'm confident that moving forward, we'll have a better dealing as we start as two important stakeholders sit down to determine what that value proposition is going to be for teachers. I think another wise thing that I've heard is it is not just about teacher pay. It is about the way we treat and respect teachers. It is about the professionalism that we accord to them. It is about the environment. And when we changed the length of time, that wasn't what we're hearing is that wasn't something that was necessarily objectionable. Although I guess accounting-wise, that is still problematic. Well, we have work to do. But as far as the 2.85 step increase goes, I'm glad that teachers were able to benefit, but not all were. If you were at the top, for example, you didn't get anything.
And Mrs. Bachman-Moore?
Thank you very much. Like I said, I've been a business owner, so I know about budgets, and I can't answer any questions having to do with the budget from the past that I wasn't privy to seeing and understanding and looking through. But what I could tell you that if I was elected as the Occoquan School Board representative, I would like to see a budget committee put together, and I would like to see each district have a budget committee where I would call people to help me make those decisions. I know insurance, but I don't know retirement. I know parts, I know this, but I don't know everything. So I would like to put together a group of professionals to come up with ideas and show me where the cut should be or where we could not do this and do that. You know, get professionals' opinions to help me make decisions, and then go back, each one of us go together as a board, as a partner, to make the cuts needed to give the teachers the appropriate raise. Thank you.
All right. I've lost the questions. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned. All right, here we go. And this question we will begin the rotation back. Mrs. Jesse will answer first. And this question is about English as a second language. English as a second language students continue to make up a large portion of our schools, 15.1% in 2011. Many people think that these students slow down instruction in the classroom. For each of you, the question is, how would you address this situation should you be elected to the school board? And we start with Mrs. Jesse.
Is it 1 minute or 2?
1 minute.
1 minute?
Tick-tock.
Okay. First of all, there are different schools of thoughts, and I've heard the expression as a principal that the ESOL students brought our scores down. I think behind this language barrier is this very bright child wanting to get out. And I have to tell you, I've worked with them, with students from English as second language situations for, I think, probably at least 15 years. I've seen 100% performance by them in an inclusion situation. I do believe that at the early grades that we really need to think about a more bilingual structure in the classroom. And looking at the materials that are going home, we often say parents should reach their children at home, and you send home a book for them to read that is English, and you don't have anyone in the home to read that book because no one in the home speaks the language. So I think the materials that go home we need to address that and support that, and realize that all children can learn at high levels.
Dr. Wooten.
English as a second language is a reality in Prince William County. If you look at our current ethnic mix, we are about 28%, they're about Latino, we're about 20% African American, about 35% white, and then the other makes up the other total for the 100%. And we are becoming more and more ethnically diverse. Spanish is obviously a common first language and is the language spoken in many households, but not just Spanish. Urdu, Korean, other languages are spoken. And as we move forward in a Prince William County that is browning, we're looking at, when we look at the schools, and we look at the kindergartners, the primary schools, we're looking at the workforce about 10 years from now. We need to be ready.
Mrs. Bachman-Moore.
And I wasn't terribly reflecting.
Very much. I, again, work in an elementary school. Children learn fast. They learn so quick. I can see a child that had no English, and it's not just Spanish. It's all nationalities have come into the school, and within 2 or 3 months, they're pretty good at English. And I applaud my school for the parents that would like to learn English coming into the school, and they have free tutoring for the parents to learn English. Reading, reading, reading. I love books going home. That's where they're learning it, but I believe the children are smarter than we give them credit for, and they are learning English very quickly. Thank you.
Mr. Bender.
Here we go. If we had the funding, I would separate the ones that are required to adhere to the English requirement. The English language is very difficult. Both sides, meaning the community, the teachers, and the students, want to open a discussion and try to understand what the other groups want to do. There must be a willingness between the parents and the students and the school, and a reasonable way to compromise so that these students are able to adhere English. I know, for example, I've been in classes where the student cannot possibly understand what I'm saying. That's an impediment not just to the student. Consider the fact that it's an impediment to the other students, because when they take their SOLs, they start comparing each other. It appears that there is a difficult. So my point of view is, once again, if we had the money, I certainly would investigate to start with, to see if we can put these students aside in the classes that do not speak the English and provide insight. Thank you.
Thank you. And now our next question. Many successful people attribute their start of success to extracurricular activities at schools. In these difficult budget times, how do you value and prioritize these after-school activities? And we start with Dr. Wooten.
Extracurricular or co-curricular activities are an essential way that students learn other skills, other life skills. But these are services, programs that I told you I would be candid, that we have to look at as we look at what's affordable. One of the things that is a challenge is that in Prince William County we have buses that run students home after school, and then for specialty programs, and then also for extracurricular activities. So we have a significant transportation cost to support the co-curricular activities. They're important, but again, we have to think about those co-curricular activities as we look at our budget priorities. Again, we have to make some tough calls there.
Mrs. Bachman-Moore.
Thank you very much. As I said in the beginning, I am a coach, so I am all about sports. You learn life lessons, team building. You learn a lot about yourself. And I am a crew mom, one at Woodbridge High School. Woodbridge High School has a crew team that's a 501(c)(3). We do all our own fundraising. We don't ask for anything from anybody else. We do car washes. We're out there going door to door. We don't look to Prince William County for a cent. Now, if the budget was cut to a point where football program, I bet you those boys would be out there door knocking and doing some car washes to keep that football program going.
Mr. Bender.
School activities. I think school activities, I said earlier, are needed in all the activities for sports, but also students' clubs such as science, aviation, robotics, boating, and culinary. I've run many Little League teams from baseball to football, and I find out that students that are associated with baseball, football, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, appear to have pretty much on the ball. These are the type of students I find in the classes are very easy to be associated with. But once again, if the community really wants these students to attain different sports, there may be a time where we may have to go out and request parents to provide money for school sports and or Little League. As you know, in Little League, most of the time, the parents provide the sports. But the biggest thing in Little League is you really get to know these kids. You understand their problems. You talk to them about their school. You find out they're in Boy Scouts, they're in Girl Scouts. You find out we have the nicest bunch of kids you ever have seen. Thank you.
And Mrs. Jessie.
I have a situation with this because I really don't see sports and the arts as separate in a different way than math and science, because I have seen so many opportunities for, first of all, when you're in sports, there are math concepts that can be taught. I remember when we were teaching, getting ready for the SOLs, and we were looking at measurement. For example, my PE teacher, we as a staff decided we needed to work with measurement, that we had, we were behind with that. So the PE teacher, the art teacher, all these people jumped in. The PE teacher taught metrics. The art teacher, when we were looking at math, obtuse angles, all those things. And everything in the research tells us that you don't teach in isolation, you teach in an integrated curriculum. So I see sports as an integral part of learning. So I guess I'm not sure what I'm going to be like on the board because I want everything. Is Mr. Johns there? I want everything. I keep giving him the mic, I'm not sure why. Sorry about
She's
that.
not sure I can turn it on.
Our next question. In May 2011, the News and Messenger reported the school system had removed filters to certain websites based on a complaint from the ACLU. The websites that were blocked were pro-LBGT based, while anti-LBGT websites were allowed to be viewed. Keith Iman, Associate Superintendent for Communications and Technology Services, said internet filtering is difficult and sometimes imprecise and constantly evolving. It is nearly impossible to find the perfect balance. The question for you tonight is does this action leave Prince William County Schools open for a lawsuit, or do you think that the school system is now in compliance with the law? We begin with Mrs. Bachman-Moore.
I myself personally would like to know a little bit more about, before I made a decision like that, I would do some more research to exactly find out what the law is. I'm not a lawyer. I can't make that decision. So obviously the people that did make that decision know a little bit more about that subject than myself. So I would have to go home and do my homework. Thank you.
Mr. Bender.
What do the abbreviations stand for?
Lesbian, bisexual, gay, and transgender community.
Whether or not they should be provided on the school computer.
Whether the school system should block school computers, internet access to those sites, either the pro-LBGT sites or the anti-LBGT sites.
Well, I think under the Constitution, they have a right to utilize the computers. If they don't want the students to pick up that data, they shouldn't have the computers. But let's be fair about this nonsense on the, what are the character letters again? The
LBGT.
LGBT. Believe me, kids today know everything about LGBT, if that's the right numbers. I, for one, I'm sure they hear it at home. They hear it about the other kids in school. The point is, why do you want to inhibit them from using the computer? It's something they didn't know. These kids know more than I know. I'm having a hard time using a pad that says hello and goodbye. So I feel strong enough that once the kids understand English and they're able to understand right and wrong, I think the teacher and the school has a right to say to them, listen, this is not advisable to be used on the computer during school time. If you wish to use such a thing at the school time, you cannot use it in this school. Please consider using it at home. Thank you.
And Mrs. Jessie.
I have to tell you, this is not one of my strongest suits, but I would say to you that it depends what they're looking for on those sites. And we have filters in place. At my school, I know we had filters in place. We always watched to see what students were looking at various sites, and every once in a while they would move into different sites. But whether or not a person is gay or lesbian is, I'm not sure that's up for the school system to make a decision about whether or not a person should have access to certain information. You know, we do have, this is America, and we need to realize that we are in America, and that gay and lesbian behavior, and there's heterosexual behavior to me that they shouldn't have access to. I'm more concerned about the heterosexual than I am the lesbian. Okay, I think my time is up. I want my time to be up.
Dr. Wooten.
Yeah. I think the lady would like to just move on from that subject, and I don't blame her. But the question poses to us a political question, whether it's okay to block pro-LGBT material vice anti-LGBT material. I don't know that particular situation. I don't know that it was actually a political choice. Oftentimes the challenge that you as parents would support is that you are trying, you key in on certain words so that the filters work, so that the students can't access pornography. And since this is on YouTube, I won't talk about some of the strategies that our technically savvy children are using to get around the filters, but they do. But I don't know that this was an issue of choosing political sides as much as it is trying to safeguard our children from objectionable material, be it lesbian, bisexual, gay, transgendered, or straight.
We're just about out of time. We're going to move into the closing statements, but before we do, I may have mentioned that I work for WTOP Radio 103.5 FM on your dial, and I host the Ask the Governor show, amongst other things, 10 a.m. with Governor McDonnell. Comes in every month, flies up from Richmond, and he was on yesterday.
Excellent show.
Thank you. I'm sorry, sir, again, your name? And I told him I was doing this debate, and he immediately said that he wanted to pose a question to the candidates. So this question comes to you directly from Governor McDonnell. And his question for each of you is, what is your stance on charter schools and school choice for parents in Virginia? And we will start with Mr. Bender.
Well, I don't know too much about charter schools.
With a microphone, please, sir.
Oops, here we go. I don't know too much about charter schools. You hear a lot about them. People say, oh, they're no good. They are good. I have friends that have had students, their own children, in charter schools. Fabulous. Kids do everything, come out very well. One of the things you find when you talk to these people, and I've talked to a lot of them that have children in charter schools, is I got a real tongue lashing one day about charter schools, how good they are, and how bad the Prince William County schools are. But the point is, these people, charter schools or no charter schools, they forget they're still paying taxes. I have no qualms about charter schools being implemented by the county. There is no reason not to have them. Has anybody in this audience put up their hands, had a comment to say charter schools are bad? I know 5 families. I'm associated with one right now where I work. And she has 3 girls and 2 boys, and they're very good. I know a family that had 2 girls in charter schools. Everything came out fine. They all graduated. They all have certificates. So again, I want you and the audience to consider, I think charter schools, in my opinion, we are not paying for them. Thank you.
Mrs. Jessie.
Well, first of all, charter schools are public schools. And at this point, Prince William doesn't have a problem because I think the public schools are really great schools, and so we don't have that many requests. But I think if we do have requests, basically the board has regulations and policies in place that those schools would have to share the mission and vision for Prince William County. And I'm pretty sure I'm correct about that. The research on charter school varies. The research in the District of Columbia says that charter schools are better because they're comparing them to the public schools in D.C. Nationally, it's back and forth, but generally, most charter schools do not students do not perform higher than students in public schools. But I think the whole idea of giving parents choice is another question. It's almost like the Thomas Jefferson question that we had, that sometimes I think parents do need to have choice. But I have to tell you, I'm an advocate for public schools. That's just who I am. I just think we're doing a great job.
Dr. Wooten.
I'm for charter schools, for school choice, and would probably be as aggressive as anybody here in supporting that. But make no mistake about it, I would support a broad range of school choice from a point of pride in Prince William County schools, basically saying, bring it on. We're good. And you bring in even vouchers, and the parents will continue to make the choice to stay in Prince William County schools. TJ is a charter school. My children, my daughters, I don't go there. I prefer the specialty program, the school choice arrangement we have in Prince William County. I think by and large, parents in Prince William County will make that choice. So I say, as far as school choice goes, bring it on. I'd like to see it. I want parents to have a broad range of choices. I think that's essential as we look at dealing with the mix, the population mix that perhaps our schools won't adequately serve.
And Mrs. Bachman-Moore.
Isn't it wonderful to live in Prince William County in the year 2012 and have choices? Right now, we have 4 wonderful candidates up here. Everybody has a choice on who they're going to vote for. I wake up every morning to choices. I'm all about being able to pick what's best for my family.
All right, that will conclude the questions. We are now going to move to our closing statements from each of the candidates. Each candidate will get 5 minutes to talk. We would like you to all hold your applause until the very end. Since we started at this end with opening statements, we will start down at the far end with Dr. Wooten.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming out this evening. There is generally a nucleus of the very concerned, very involved, motivated electorate, and I'm sure that we have a critical mass of that from Occoquan in this room. So thank you. It was a pleasure to be able to discuss our various views and give you an opportunity to evaluate the way we would tackle some of the challenges in Prince William County schools. Hopefully you considered from time to time that iron triangle that I talked about, looking at, again, teacher compensation, or better yet, that value proposition that we give to our teachers to motivate them to stay in Prince William County schools, looking at the classroom structure, and particularly looking at the class size. And then lastly, that budget constraint that we have, because again, we do not have taxing authority as school board members, so we have to live within our means. I got a chance to tell you a little bit about me and why I want to do this. I believe in the future for our county. I believe that the best thing that we can do is to prepare our 83,400 students for student success, and I believe that success is measured in 2 terms: their ability to support the democracy and their ability to make meaningful contributions to the economy. This is an important election. Please note that we, as school board members, make decisions about 56.75% of the county budget. So it matters to you whether you have children in school or not. This election is important. Again, I believe I have the background to do the things that I've talked about, and I've laid on the table some of the tough decisions that we're going to have to think about. There's some programs and services that we are going to have to consider as we figure out how to live within our means. Recently, I was privileged as a lifelong learner to complete a doctorate in education from the University of Pennsylvania. My wife has said no mas, no more, because she's also suffered through 3 master's programs. But I am willing to eat my own dog food. I talk about the importance of education, and I'm willing to spend the time educating myself. My last 2 degrees are in education. My day job pays me to do the work of education, and I'm also on the Nova School Board, rather the Northern Virginia Community College Board. That tells you something. That's where I've dedicated my life and energy. Early on, as we've all stumbled against time constraints, I got a chance to kind of mention a passion of mine, and that's a Taekwondo program that we've been running here in Prince William County for a good part of 14 years. That's an exciting thing that we get to do. And that's one of the many ways, and this particular one is co-curricular, but one of the many ways that you get to see the excitement in the child's eyes when they can meet success. For me, there's not a magic moment that is any more precious than when I have a 5-year-old trembling in front of a master instructor who's holding a board and tells him, break it. and when they punch it or kick it and it snaps and you see the light in their eyes. And I know that's the special light that teachers see in the classroom. So that's why I'm drawn to this. That's why I feel called to do this. I yield the balance of my time to the gentle lady and general. I'm just kidding. I'm done.
Mrs. Jesse. Mrs. Jesse.
Okay, am I next? Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity for sharing. And who are those 4 votes out there who are, did you raise your hand? Okay. I'm not a Marine, but my husband is a Marine. That seems to be a way of getting votes, so thank you.
I hope this one time she's right.
Don't take my time. Anyway, last weekend, I'm on the board at Virginia Tech. And last weekend, we attended Virginia Tech, and I saw something that caused me to relook at how I see the world. I'm from a family. Are there any people in this audience who are the first in their families to go to college? Raise your hand. Yeah, that's me. So when I think you are who you were. And so what I bring is who I was. And I had a teacher that just followed me up and down the hall saying, you're going to college. Because I didn't have parents who had the vision to believe that I could go to college. They just wanted me to get out of high school. So I took that to work with me every single day. And on the board, I would do the same thing. But what I saw at Virginia Tech was this. I saw this intergenerational situation where at Tech there were, of course, the students, the 20-year-olds, and then there were the us's, the people like me, the seniors, and who are just crazy Hokie people. Hokie fans are just, they're fanatical. My daughter went to Virginia Tech, and she actually, I think she'll do the Hokie dance, which I never thought we'd do. However, and then I watched these babies dressed in Hokie materials and all, they had the uniforms, cheerleading outfits, and my thoughts was the same as 5 years ago, and I thought, these kids know they're going to college. And so for us, I think creating a college-bound curriculum where every child has an opportunity to make a choice. To me, life is about choice. A choice to have a career or to go to college. If you would put your fingers up and put 8 fingers up and look at 80 years old, most of us will live until 80. If you take these 2 fingers and say these are the first 17 years of a child's life, whatever happens down here will determine what's going to happen for the remainder of his life. So for me, it's about starting early. You start at kindergarten, and I've been talking to some people. He's in the audience, and I think it's Phil. Is it Phil in the audience? Okay. We were talking about preschool. We need to develop a preschool program in this county. We need to get them early because our economy depends on our students being able to compete with the world. We're no longer competing with Prince William. We're competing with the world. Our teaching staff has to be trained to work with all students and to teach them differently. The jobs our kids are going to have not been invented yet. You know, you got a new cell. Did you get the new, phone? It was within 1 year you get another phone. The world is moving faster. So I don't know about this, we are overspending. I haven't heard that principals are overspending because I never overspent my budget. And so I'm not sure why the board feels that we need to cut budget. I'm sure if I get on, they'll tell me. But the biggest investment we can make as a nation is in our kids and in our schools, because we will not be able to compete as a nation if we don't educate our children. And for those of you who are seniors like me, when we go to that nursing home, we want literate people there. So with that, I close. Thank you.
Mr. Bender.
Like everybody else, good evening again. Glad to see you all came. I know who you're going to vote for. It's me, nobody else. In the meantime, okay, Lily. It's been a pleasure to sit before this group. I've been long time ago, I used to sit at the Naval Postgraduate School and talk to pilots. Let me tell you, you guys are easy to work with. One thing, I've been on this campaign by myself, and it's tough. I'm going to leave you with a few things I found. The school system must have collective bargaining when required. No one party has a monopoly on intelligence and wisdom. There is no democracy with compromise. How to get more funding or live with less, one must choose. No one gets everything they want. The school board sets priorities. Can the community live with them? Is the budget assessed by having a group of citizens that may be appointed to interface with the budget staff? If the school system does not get the budget straight to support what the community needs to educate the children, the system will drown. Who and where our basic budget requirements are reviewed. With knowledge of what is changing in the out years, the budget continues and must be processed early in the out years. There are objectives and goals, as I said earlier. Has anyone here seen what these elements are? Will they get the students to graduation? God knows. An article I took out of the Washington Post, a list of President Obama's education measures. If I have enough time, I'd like to read them. Evaluate teachers based in part on students' test scores. Get rid of teachers with weak ratings. Reward teachers with strong evaluations. Expand public charter schools. Raise academic standards to help prepare students for college or careers. Schools across the country should follow consistent academic standards. And what I mean by that, if they're doing it in California, let the kids here in Virginia know the same test. States should use data to link students' performance to specific teachers and track achievements over time. That's a lot of time and a lot of money required. States should follow specific models to turn around schools to the bottom 5%, from the bottom 5%. Today there is $500 billion spent in this country annually for elementary and high school education. I, as a taxpayer, have no idea where and what, if any, Prince William County receives any. I'm sure they do. I'm sure if I had the time to dig into it, I would find it. So if you people would consider the few remarks that I made, it's a long, difficult road from here to the school board, and the school system itself has such a volatile. Tomorrow's students are today. So we must think about, as I just said, tomorrow's students. Thank you for your time.
And Mrs. Bachman-Moore.
Okay, I know everybody's sitting there going, oh, geez, one more speech, so I'll make it short. First of all, I want to thank all the other three candidates. I have never seen so many passionate people about one subject all my life. And a number of years ago when I moved, I found out that my senior English teacher lived four doors down from me. And every time I see that gentleman, I thank him for everything he taught me. Now, if I could find my old government teacher, I'd sure thank him too. Everything that they taught me, I still remember. And I leave you with that thought, that if you do ever run across one of your teachers, please thank them. And I want to wish everybody a wonderful evening and a speedy drive home, and please be safe. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for the Prince William County School Board. Let's also thank our host, the Prince William Committee of 100.